We're going to talk about a conversation I had with Relatable Reese where we got a bit into Scientology mind control and how powerful it is. There's new news coming out about a Scientology doctor dad who is in hot water and happens to be the father of, you know it, Rebecca Minkoff from the Real Housewives of New York. That and so much more. Hey, everybody, welcome. Aloha. It is Aloha Friday. So we got to have lots of aloha in the chat today as we move along, covering all kinds of Scientology news, culty stuff. I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult. Welcome to the chat. We got the live chat going. Thank you so much to the members of the channel for being here. And thank you so much for your continued support. It really does help. And a huge thank you and mahalo to the moderators who help us out every single day. Hopping on here. Yes. All right. Let's see. I got to make sure I got the menopause fan going. I was just telling Nancy before we got started how it's like that spot in Minnesota where I kind of want to open the windows because it's so nice early on, but then it's going to be 80 something degrees and I'm going to be overly hot. I'm already overheating, but it's mostly from all these lights because, you can see my studio lights from space because there's so many. Because, I studied the Mariah Carey School of Lighting. The more, the better. I heard before that, there was this rumor that people would follow her around with lighting just so she looked her best all the time. I doubt that was true. Anyways, I digress. Aloha, everybody throwing up the alohas in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that. Because again, like I said, it is Aloha Friday. Let's get into this stuff. First, we're going to talk about, how here on YouTube, if you do not have the paid YouTube, you see commercials and advertisings. And Google Ads, that's how those of us on YouTube who are monetized make money, make a living on YouTube, because people watch the ads. And the ads, now I have the paid YouTube, so I don't see the ads when I'm watching it. Did you know, thankfully, some of you have been taking some screenshots and sending me some of the ads playing on my videos. And if you are familiar with my channel, we basically expose Scientology every single day. And that is what we talk about. Culty Scientology, Scientology being culty, cult similar to Scientology also being culty. So what kind of advertisers do you think might pop on there? Well, you know what? I will show you who. Grant Cardone, Scientologist, operating Thetan level 8, I believe is where he's at, has his real estate ads popping up on my videos. And I think it's so incredibly funny. I just got the biggest kick out of it. I don't know why. I just thought it was super funny. Oh, Jan. Okay, the Mariah Carey thing is true. Seen it a few times myself. Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure if I was, remembering it incorrectly, but I remember thinking that. Anyways, Grant Cardone, I'll take his money. He pays for ads. Google pays me for the ads. So in a way, is Grant Cardone paying me? How's that work? It doesn't matter. I still will completely be throwing shade at him as well as his shenanigans come up in the news and people are talking about it. Jersey Jan, welcome. Welcome everybody from Maryland's channel, Coffee, Cult, and Crafts. I actually listen to Maryland while I get ready in the morning to come on and do this. Thank you guys for being here. As you come in, please show the like button some aloha. It is Aloha Friday. And God, being from Hawaii, I love a good Aloha Friday. Okay, let's see now. Let's move on to the next thing here, which is this video that covers 10 insane facts about Scientology. We're only going to look at one because it's a lengthy video. But can some of you guess? I bet you can. It's always interesting to me what other people on YouTube or different platforms or even the media find crazy about Scientology. So I love watching these. And if there's, I love any kind of a list. Give me the top 3, the top 5, the top 10 of anything, and I will pretty much watch it. So this is from 10 insane facts about Scientology. And this is specific, getting into the Sea Organization.
Scientology members that have displayed a deep loyalty and willingness to achieve more in the church are often encouraged to join the Sea organization, also known as Sea Org. The Sea Org is conducted like a military, with ranks and punishments and boot camp-like living quarters, but operates the corporate side of the church, providing maintenance to facilities, earning funds for the church, cooking, and managing employees. The induction process into the Sea Org involves signing an odd contract that pledges your soul to them and says you'll serve for 1 billion years.
Not many, it seems like Scientology these days, because Sea Org, Scientology, the billion-year contract has been in the news multiple times before, but it's taken on a whole new level of exposure. Thanks to the Linkin Park Emily Armstrong situation with Scientology. What are the ties? The rumors about Sabrina Carpenter being a Scientologist, Scientology's own shenanigans, and Scientology will try to say, oh, it's not really a billion years. I mean, we don't really expect people. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You have a 21-year leave of absence between lifetimes, and then you're supposed to come back to the Sea organization. All right, let's finish watching this.
Members are actually obligated to do this.
The swords, by the way. I don't know why I never got a sword in the Sea Org. I am feeling a little bit left out of this. Who were the people that got to have the swords? I never understood that. To be honest, I never saw a sword in real life in the Sea organization. They probably didn't want us to have them. But when there were certain ceremonies, these swords would come out. And to be honest, I never really understood what the swords were about. So any of my ex-Sea Org friends in the chat, or if you're catching this on the replay, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Were you one of the people who got to hold the sword? What did they tell you it was for? Where did they keep them? What's the deal? It's a little bit of a mystery from my past that I would like to fill in the blanks on.
Or they're just flat out denied entry. This means that if you die as a member of Sea Org, your soul or your reincarnated self will be expected to continue serving, and this expectation will continue for literally a billion.
Now, listen to this. This is Scientology Sea Org propaganda that they send out. This is a quote from L. Ron Hubbard. It possibly is a bit above your reality to say that we intend to salvage this sector. No one has been able to do it for 75 million years. We are the first. LRH. Did you guys throw up in your mouth a little bit? I did. The first in 75 million years. And you might be wondering, Natalie, why is that crazy man specifically calling out 75 million years? You guys know why. If you've been around for a while, what happened 75 million years ago? What happened here on Earth 75 years ago per L. Ron Hubbard? Xenu, the galactic overlord, took all these people on other planets and threw them into volcanoes here on Earth, where they were ceremoniously blown up. And then a large ribbon, an electronic ribbon, appeared. They were stuck to it, and they were implanted with images, beliefs in Jesus, God. This is L. Ron Hubbard here. This is not like, I know it sounds like science fiction, but this is literally a Scientology belief. So you'll hear that often reference, this in 75 million years. And if you don't know, if you've not done the upper levels in Scientology, then you wouldn't know as a Scientologist about Xenu. But you hear L. Ron Hubbard over and over again talking about 75 million years ago, 75 million years ago. That is why, because 75 million years ago was supposedly Xenu and that whole thing. And that whole mess. All right, let's take a look now. Speaking of a mess, Scientology. We just passed the anniversary of 9/11, and Ono Nora did a video about it and Scientology's kind of like what they did as a result of that. Scientology, after the events of 9/11, came out with a bulletin with a multi-page announcement. I believe it was from David Miscavige, called The Wake Up Call. Yeah, The Wake Up Call. It was a wake up call for Scientologists. Tommy Tone Toontown, thank you for being a member. I appreciate it so much. Hip, hip, hooray. Thank you for that. So let's look at this, because I forgot about this wake up call. I remember when that happened. I was in Los Angeles from Minnesota, working on getting onto the upper levels on Scientology's their bridge to total freedom, trying to work my way up like a good little Scientologist. And I remember when that happened and we still had to go on course. I was getting ready in the morning. There was a television where I was staying. I was renting a spot and with some other people who were Scientologists. And I saw on the television like what was happening. We still had to go to course every single time. We were pretty isolated from what was happening. And all of Scientology was given this wake-up call thing from David Miscavige. And it is pretty darn creepy. And Nora goes over it in this video. We're going to look at a couple clips here.
Which brings us to the most important thing you can do. Help in the crusade so we do pull off a big win.
Scientology and David Miscavige used this wake-up call in 9/11 as a call to action for Scientology to step up their efforts, to join the Sea Org, to join staff, to donate to Scientology. They really used it as an opportunity to amp things up for Scientology.
We have the technology, but it must be used. So let me ask, who's going to apply it? Let's face it, the answer to that question requires a lot of me's if we are to end the dwindling spiral of this civilization.
Now, that is so on brand for Scientology to think that they and only they can end any type of suffering on this planet, the dwindling spiral that this civilization is in. Did y'all know that we're in a dwindling spiral and only Scientology can save us? Oh, no. But I think you should check out the video and I'll tell you why, because this is kind of really a historic turning point to a degree in Scientology, this wake-up call that David Miscavige put out, because it did create an effect in Scientology. And we're going to take a look at something that happened as a result of it. Something.
So many teens were filling the PAC Estates project force at this time. Post this was another huge wave of recruiting minors into the Sea organization, especially in the Los Angeles area. I cannot speak to the rest of the world. I'm sure it is the same story, but that's what happened.
So many underage kids, because think about it, you got Scientologists who are heavily in debt. And if you have debt, you cannot join the Sea organization, or at least you're not supposed to. Maybe they have bent that rule since. I don't know. But this whole call to action after 9/11, Scientology and David Miscavige basically took that. And instead of, doing something that actually would be helpful, that was needed and wanted by society, by our community, by the United States, no. They come up with this wake-up call and put out this huge push and use it as this rallying cry that the world could come to an end at any time. And we are not far enough in Scientology to avoid the implant station. And if you're new to the channel, the implant station is what Scientology believes where we go to after we die. Our bodies die, but we as a soul or spirit takes off for an implant station where our memory is wiped clean, and we were giving all kinds of belief systems and things to keep us trapped here on this prison planet called Earth. So that's a Scientology belief around it. And by using 9/11 and what happened and using it as this wake-up call, Scientology was able to get in more younger people, because there were Scientologists who were like, well, I'm up to here in my eyeballs in debt, but I have a 15-year-old child. I have a 14-year-old child. My 16-year-old maybe wants to be in the Sea Org. It's very insidious the way that Scientology did that. And link down below to that video and everything we're going to talk about today, so you can go ahead and see all these things all the way through. All right. Let's now move on to in Los Angeles. There are some shenanigans going on. I know you guys know this, but have you heard about how I think this is the third time that certain people are trying to pass an ordinance that would pretty much ban protesting in front of churches, hospitals, and a few other special places, sensitive places. You cannot approach like somebody within 8 feet, and you have to be within 100. I don't recall if it was yards or feet, but away from the entrance. And It's totally targeted to curb protests. And of course, we know why Scientology would be down with this, because the amount of live streaming and protesting going on with Scientology. Let's take a look at a community. Oh, actually, this was on X, but it shows a map. You can take a look at this 41.18 map to get an idea of just how much of LA this motion would cover. If this motion passes, free speech would be banned in each red dot. So LAMC 4118 uses the same designation of schools, hospitals, and community centers as, quote, sensitive sites. And you can see that here. Those are a lot of sensitive sites. So that is something to keep an eye on. It failed the last 2 times, and we'll try to stay up to date on what happens with this 3rd attempt here. And just see, hey, Eric Rader, good to see you here. Welcome to anybody who's coming over from Eric's channel. I don't know if you were live this morning or not, Eric, but welcome. Okay, now let's go to L. Ron Hubbard Way and see what Confident Chris was doing. We got a couple clips from him. He caught some things. If you are not familiar with Confident Chris, he has been live streaming and protesting Scientology pretty much since the start of when Scientology Audit Streets LA, William Good started doing so last year. We got to meet Confident Chris, Jessica Palma-Dessa, and so many more people. And Confident Chris was at the Blue Buildings, and he ran into somebody you guys might remember from the early days of the Hollywood Testing Center and those protests. Do you guys remember Grandpatology? Do you remember? Well, check this out. Leave it to Confident Chris to run into a previous character.
Joey, you know Joey, Joseph. Mohawk guy. He would always be by the test center. They tried to get a restraining order on William, and so they lost, basically. Yeah, he's doing great, I think. Yeah.
He could come back if he doesn't have the restraining order anymore.
Yeah.
So he could come back.
He could come back if he wanted to. He just chooses not to. Yeah. No, it's a long game.
That's how you look at
We're
it.
We're playing chess. You guys are playing checkers.
I love that Chris says, we're playing chess, you're playing checkers. And then Grandpatology is all, I've been doing this for 25 years.
A long time.
I seen some people quit right before you.
Think you'll do another 25 more?
You're willing to die for this?
You can make it to 100.
Interesting conversation. Chris has had multiple conversations with Scientologists out there. And Grandpatology is a Scientologist that early on would have conversations with the live streamers and protesters, which I always thought was pretty cool of him because at least he's communicating. I do have a suspicion that Grandpatology was sent out to distract Chris, and Dodge Landisman was there with him so that either somebody could come into the building or leave the building. That very much gave, I'm trying to distract you and keep you away from something. Did you guys feel that? I've seen Scientology do this multiple times, and I've been on the other side in Scientology where they would try this tactic. And it really doesn't matter because we are everywhere. We will find out and see everything, Scientology. You cannot hide. Now, speaking of not being able to hide, let's take a look at this clip again from Confident Chris. There's a few things going on here. First off, he comes upon someone who we can assume is a Sea Org member who's washing a car. And you might be thinking, Natalie, what is the big deal? Dude is washing his car. Let's watch and I shall explain.
He washing that, huh? Hi, sir. Hey, can you say hi to Keith for me?
Now, here's the thing. He doesn't, is that like, I don't think that is a Sea Org uniform there. It doesn't seem to be with that short sleeve. And he's washing a car, fairly in the middle of the day. This makes me think this guy is in trouble, that he is what Scientology calls an ethics particle. And when you get in trouble with Scientology, you are put onto manual labor. Dude doesn't look like he's dressed to wash a car. What is he rinsing off exactly? It is a little odd. And the fact that he's doing it in the middle of the day, trust me when I tell you, Scientology is not having Sea Org members, if they happen to have a car, let them go out and just wash their cars like that. The other thing is he's washing it. Back in my day, gather around for a back in my day, my friends. Back in my day in the Sea Org, you couldn't wash a car right there. You had to do it. There were certain spots that you could do it in. But he seems to be doing it outside what might be a security area, because what happens? Somebody comes to get him. All those blinds are closed. How does this person who just called him in know that Chris was out there if it weren't for security? And he gets beckoned in there, and he cannot finish the car. And as Chris was saying in the video, it's going to leave water spots because all he did was hose it down, but he gets called in to run away. And now he's not even doing a good job on the car. But again, this is somebody, because it's near the area where when you are in trouble as a Sea Org member, you get put onto manual labor. And when you want to leave the Sea Org, you get put onto manual labor. And when you're not doing manual labor, you are doing your Sea Org interrogation so they can find out your crimes. And then maybe you don't want to leave the Sea organization. Usually what they do is they just overwhelm people, and it becomes so complicated, and the mind control starts to mess with them so much that they just want the pain to stop, and they give up and are like, I'll stay. I'll just stay. Scientology up north. Did LRH have a manual for cleaning cars like he did for windows? I think he did. I'm not 100%. Any of my ex-Sea Org friends, if you remember, jump in the chat or jump in the comments and let me know. I have this vague recollection that he did, but I don't recall what it was. It could have been a flag order, which are specific to the Sea Org. I'm not sure. So Cece says that car wash area, the International Association of Scientologists, is to the left and the Continental Liaison Office ahead. But Cece, they moved the CLO across the street on L. Ron Hubbard Way. And this is on the other side, right to the left of the horseshoe. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I've never seen anybody wash a car in that spot, but something is definitely up with that guy. I mean, again, all the things I said, we'll just keep an eye and see if we see him out there again doing the hard work. Because, when you join Scientology for 1 billion years to salvage the planet, it all starts with washing a vehicle. All right, let's go over to San Francisco now, where Club Brain Fog had an interesting encounter with a Scientologist. I don't know if this person was staff. She's not wearing a uniform, I don't think. She just could be a Scientologist, but let's take a look at this weirdness.
Okay, so 2003. Yeah, he was gone. Oh, I'm taking pictures. Isn't this cute? Hi. Oh. So yeah, you see. I guess it's supposed to bother me. It's like, are you kidding?
Oh no, she took out a camera to take pictures. Oh no, say it isn't so. Most people live streaming or have a channel on YouTube and are not afraid to show their face or that they are actually protesting Scientology.
They know who I am. They've gotten into my LinkedIn. I'm not harassing.
Oh, yes. You did that to me.
Oh,
Oh, so now she's claiming Club Brain Fog is harassing her. And the woman's like, oh, yes, you did it to me. And then the woman gives her a big FU at the end, which I just muted that out. But yeah, weird to consider yourself harassed because somebody is standing on a public street filming Scientology, but okay. And the way you handle it, I mean, it reminded me, you know what it gave? It gave Not Jerry in Kansas City, the Scientologist, when I was there protesting a few weeks ago, who told me, and I quote, to go F myself. It's very much giving Not Jerry. It's just not friendly Scientology. And it is not Aloha. And being it is Aloha Friday, I'm going to have to condemn that action. It is not Aloha. And we are all about the Aloha today. Now let's jump over. Speaking of Kansas City and Not Jerry, we're going to go to Kansas City and take a look because Scientology Audit was out there and he caught a glimpse of Desiree, the Sea Org member who, if you might recall on my channel, not that long ago, I did 2 videos with Z News from Kansas City, and we shared a recording, an undercover recording that was done. And Desiree is the Sea Org member that you hear, and she basically just talks about Scientology and shares some of her views and beliefs, and some of it is very, very unsettling, I guess, to put it lightly. And you can find those videos on my channel under live. Just scroll down. It's the one, you'll see it. You'll see it. Anyways, some people have reached out even to me and asked, what happened to Desiree? She also had the nickname of Sea Org Sally. Which I thought was kind of funny. I think that was before people knew what her name was. They referred to her as Sea Org Sally. So Sea Org Sally / Desiree seems to be alive and well, because I know some of you were concerned after we shared those videos. What happened to her? Did she get in trouble? We don't know, but here's what we do know. The girl is still going out and trying to sell Scientology and Dianetics books.
Well, there's Desiree. That's the person who confronted me. I wonder where they're going.
So they're packing up. You can see the table, the bins. There's probably Dianetics books in there. Looks like that giant bag is probably the tent. She's wearing a red shirt. That's indicative of, when they're branding themselves as, oh, this is Dianetics. This is not Scientology, because this is what Scientology is doing. They're trying to separate themselves out. Scientology is getting such a bad rap. They're getting so beat up in the media and everywhere else for good reason. So what they do is they go out and they try to sell their Dianetics books, and they get very upset if you call them Scientology, which I think is hilarious, because it is what you are. Dianetics, Scientology goes together. Same thing. I don't care what you call it or how you try to trick people, because what we see, in fact, auditing Scientology himself was in Kansas City when they were at an event trying to sell Dianetics books, and referred to them and let people know that's Scientology. We've seen the same thing in Chicago with Windy City Thetan Watch, where he has run into Scientology selling Dianetics books at different events in the community. And he lets people know, hey, that's Scientology, so you know. And what does Scientology do? They go to the authorities. They're trying to complain. He's calling us Scientology, because you are Scientology. You can't hide behind that Dianetics. Everybody knows. Actually, I take that back. Not everybody knows Dianetics is Scientology. And that's why they do this. If they go out there with their just full-blown Scientology, then right away, nobody's going to sit down and hold on to their cans or watch one of their Dianetics films. None of that. It is this lame way of them still trying to grow and trick people. But word is out. People are finding out. And this is why I love when people are live streaming or protesting Scientology at these different events, so they can let them know it's Scientology. Dianetics is Scientology. Okie dokie. Now let's go over, and we're going to look at a clip of a video that I did with Relatable Reese, because we got to talking about Scientology programming. And this is something I want to talk more in depth about. And I think with her too, because she's fairly new out of Scientology, about the pressures of the Scientology mind control and how that affects Scientologists and decisions. Give this a listen. I think, especially when it comes to Scientology, there's this idea we feel, because we've been so indoctrinated to be little production monsters where we just work. And that really is the default. But finding like other things that we want to do, like as I put my life back together, I've decided it's not going to be with the amount of time that I worked before, which was way, way too much. Yeah. And I'm going to figure out how it all fits in, but take time I got a Kindle. I might just read a book.
I've never seen a Kindle in real life.
Real exciting stuff here, people. I know I'm like breaking all kinds of, I'm like just busting out of my shell.
Be careful with that thing. It's a lot. You're chasing people down in Kansas City. You got a Kindle. You need to slow down a little bit. Slow down.
The mind control around production and working in Scientology is something that it's not unique to cults, because that's what cults do, is work people to the bone. But a lot of people don't recognize that it is part of the mind control in Scientology, especially when you grow up in it. You're very indoctrinated to believe that your value as an individual is completely dependent on what you can do for the group, on what you can do and do for Scientology. That is what your acceptance is based off of. That is how you decide who your friends are, the people who are doing the most for Scientology. And when you spend a lifetime being indoctrinated to believe that, downtime is bad, that there is so much to do, that it is so vital that as Scientology expands, because remember, Scientology is saving the planet. They are the only ones with the solution in their minds, okay? They are pretty much the only ones who believe this. But that is why there's such indoctrination from a very young age to work, 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 work. And I think it's great to have a good work ethic. But what I've come to realize, and Reese too, in our conversation, is we don't learn and nurture self-care. There's no model for that. The only model that we're given or see, it's just you work, you work, you work, you work, you work. It doesn't matter if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating. So even when we leave Scientology, it can sometimes be hard to break out of that mind control because you constantly feel like you need to be doing something productive. And there's a lot of anxiety that can go with that. And that was a topic that we've started talking about. And I want to continue the conversation on, because I myself, even 14 years out of Scientology, still battle a bit of that mind control there. I mean, it was 35 years of it being blasted at me. So might take a hot minute to kind of really undo that. Hey, Liz Gail, hiya. I've been cleaning and listening, popping on to say hi. Good to see you, Liz. Okay. God, it just, every time I think about that, sometimes I can't even believe that was 35 years of my life. I can't. It feels like it was an entirely different lifetime. And I'm just thankful that I have the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys about it here, because so much of my healing even today is really coming from being able to freely discuss what happened and discuss the truth about Scientology and the beliefs and compare that to what I think now or what I believe now. So y'all are helping me heal. All right, let's take a look at Diane Ethics here on YouTube. She talks about Scientology's views on people who unalive themselves. This is a serious topic, and some of you who are regulars here on the channel will know, but for some of you, you might not know this about Scientology and their view on this.
Scientology does not accept. They actually detest and despise people who have attempted or committed the S word. They are repulsed by them, okay? So the fact that Chester Bennington, did what he did to end his life in Scientology standards, that is considered, he would be considered subhuman garbage. And it's actually a technical term. They call it PTS type 3.
PTS type 3. Remember that. That's pretty much what Scientology will label somebody who attempted to unalive themselves, and they are considered scum. And PTS type 3, it's when somebody has had a severe break with reality, but Scientology won't use the mental health terms for it. Instead, they use programs by L. Ron Hubbard to help the person get back in touch with reality. This is something that has backfired over and over and over again. And in a little bit, we are going to talk about how it backfired with a Clearwater Scientologist and how this is creating waves and will create even more waves. I'm going to connect the dots for you on how that ties back to the Real Housewives of New York and Rebecca Minkoff. Let's see now. I want to show you something else. Audit LA. Audit LA has been doing a ton of work in Los Angeles when it comes to Scientology. And she put out a call to action and link down below so you can get to the link that she gives. It says call to action Tuesday, September 17th at 9 a.m. That's Pacific time. They are finally having a fire commission meeting. They only take comments in person or by submitting a written comment. However, you can listen to the meeting by phone. Please, please, please get your written comments in before 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on September 16th. That is the day before the actual meeting. We need to have our voices heard. We need to demand that they open up the 20-foot fire lane as required. Let's do this. Please make a general public comment on the permit violation regarding the lack of 20-foot safety lane on LRH Way. And then there is a link to that. So this is linked down below in the description of this video so that you can do that. She has rightfully been bringing up how with Scientology having the street closed on L. Ron Hubbard Way, where's emergency vehicles supposed to go? I mean, it blows my mind that it's even gone this far. Like, what is happening? What is happening in Los Angeles? So go ahead and check that out. Link down below. Okay, let's move on now. Let's talk a little bit about this Sabrina Carpenter and Scientology situation. Sabrina Carpenter is a young, talented young lady whose star is on the rise. And there's been a lot of hubbub lately about her connections to Scientology because her aunt is Nancy Cartwright. Nancy Cartwright is the voice of Bart Simpson. Nancy Cartwright has also donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Scientology. She is a huge supporter of it. So let's take a look at this clip and then we shall discuss this more. You might not be her demographic. I know I'm not. I honestly had no idea who she was, so I had to find out. But your nieces, your nephews, your grandkids, your younger children definitely are probably watching this girl.
Well. Hi. The buzz around Sabrina Carpenter has taken an unexpected turn. Recent gossip suggests she might be more than just the next big thing in pop music. She could potentially become the new poster child for the Church of Scientology. The speculation started when a well-known gossip blogger, Celebrita Blinds, posted a video on September 5th, 2024, discussing Carpenter's alleged connections to the controversial religious organization.
Here's a new blind item that alleges that Sabrina Carpenter's aunt, who is a Scientologist and the voice of Bart Simpson, is trying to force her to become the face of Scientology.
Now, for sure, we know Nancy Cartwright is her aunt. I'm sure she would love her to be the face of Scientology. I've not seen anything that, I've not seen it. It could be out there. I've not seen it that shows Sabrina Carpenter herself being like, oh yeah, I'm a Scientologist. If she was, though, I mean, let's be honest, I doubt she'd say so. I'm also not aware of her trying to recruit people into Scientology either. So this is something I think just to keep an eye on, because those close connections and the way that Scientology will use those family connections to try and get people into Scientology is heavy, and it's a lot of pressure. It's similar to like when Lisa Marie Presley married Michael Jackson, and there was so much pressure by Scientology to get him into Scientology. So something to keep an eye on, but I'm not sure that, we need to like raise the red alarms right, at this point, but we'll see. But now that people know about that connection, they can, at least keep an eye and see. But I've just not seen anything about that. Marina says Sabrina is way too out 2D for Scientology. So out 2D in Scientology means basically you're violating their rules around sexuality or around relationships. In the C organization, you cannot have premarital sex. That's in the C organization. Regular everyday Scientologists can. But I get what you're saying. Trust me when I tell you they would look the other way on that one, or maybe try to handle her kind of like how they've done over the decades with John Travolta, where they try to handle him on his dalliances. And obviously it didn't work, nor should it. He should be allowed to be who he is. So something to keep an eye on there. Let's take a look now at a video. We're going to take a look at a clip that growing up in Scientology sat down with literally Serge. And Serge went to the Linkin Park concert that just happened. And Serge really dropped multiple gems here. I could almost play the entire thing, but that would take too long. You guys got to go watch it. I'm linking it down below. But we are going to look at a couple clips where I think literally Serge really made some good points along with Aaron.
called out. Is that entitlement? We know how many LGBTQ people there are suffering, and you're not suffering, Emily. And that's not your fault. That's not on you, but it's on you to denounce it because you recognize that privilege. You go, oh, I don't have it like this, but they are having it like that. And it's up to you to then stand out for us that were abused. If you're not getting abused for that, then that's great. But consider yourself privileged. And then actually act on that privilege from that awareness and go, oh, you know, they don't have it like me. And no other kids should be lured because I'm not a success of Scientology. I don't even use Scientology. You know, I'm using their president's office to do me favors, but, you know, all that.
Such a good point. And I didn't really think about it like that you have people, you have Scientologists who are gay and not accepted in Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard is very clear about his stance and what he says about homosexuals in Dianetics and in Science or Survival. It's very clear. And Serge makes an excellent point there, is that's another aspect of damage that can be done by going, and whether she's, you know, truly a hardcore Scientologist, this is Emily Armstrong we're talking about, or she's kind of got one foot in the door and is trying to play nice, but still hanging in there with Scientology, but she's not really active. Regardless, recognizing the privilege that she has, being different from what happened to so many Scientologists in Scientology, where Scientology tried to reprogram them, tried to do security checks, punish them for being gay. They did. I worked with a guy in the Sea Org who was punished because he fell for another man, and he was a man, and they hooked up to some degree. I don't know what. He was immediately sent to the galley as punishment to do manual labor. Funny, because it's like that was my job every day. And I wasn't busted into it. That's where I started. I wanted to like lay low, keep my head down in the Sea Org because I didn't want to go to the rehabilitation project force. But Serge makes an excellent point about that. And let's see, there's another one.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that even if Mike Shinoda himself may not be a Scientologist, that he and the band, all the members of the band, have most definitely been turned into safe points for Scientology. What does that mean?
So that means that, again, right, it's like part of the BTS technology that L. Ron Hubbard pitches is to have no one on your lines antagonistic to what you're involved in, your family's involved in. They cannot have a shred of bad thought about it. If they kind of feel like that's kind of weird that you're doing that, that's kind of weird that you grew up, that's already, she has to go to ethics. She has to figure out how she's going to smooth that out. Now, they said that they've known each other for years, right? So Emily didn't just get hired last week. It's taken how many, 7 years to create, to cement the relationship, to create all. And again, in Scientology, they're always hooking people up with special favors. Oh, we'll give you this for free. We'll give you that for free. Oh, you need this? Like, oh, we'll provide that. Oh, you need English classes? Oh, here's 3 people that will give you English. Oh, you need babysitting? The president's office can go through the entire org board in Scientology and use anyone that they need to do whatever they're doing because they're senior than anyone else, really.
That is really interesting when you think about it. She wouldn't even have to be a hardcore Scientologist to have Scientology doing things on her behalf that they felt she needed, or that she said that she needed, through the president's office of the Celebrity Center. Yep, Amy, that's right. Nora was on the RPF for 3 years because, right? Because she kissed a girl and she liked it, right? Just crazy. It's just so ridiculous. I can't even. I know I always say that. I can't even with Scientology. I cannot even with you, David Miscavige. It is Friday and Aloha Friday, but we're still going to wake up the Office of Special Affairs because we have covered many things that hopefully they have been moving along with us on. But mainly, I wanted to take this time to say, Office of Special Affairs, you do not have to listen to your leader, David Miscavige, who, if you go back and look at L. Ron Hubbard's actual policies, violates like fundraising and a whole bunch of other stuff. So life is so much better on the outside of Scientology. It is. You don't have to eat rice and beans unless you want to. You don't have to stay up all night working unless you want to. You get to decide. You want to read a book in the middle of the afternoon on a Friday? You get to. You make your own decisions. Life is so much better out here. So maybe we need to all stop listening to David Miscavige and in an orderly way exit. Actually, you know what? Run. Run. Run out of there. Run, run, run. Hey. Hey, Aaron. Run quickly. Okay, now we are going to talk about, I'm going to pull up an article. We are going to get into this. Troubling new allegations surface after Scientology dad of Real Housewives of New York star Rebecca Minkoff sued for alleged misdiagnosis in Whitney Mills' suicide case. There is a lawsuit. Okay, one, that is the longest title ever, but there's a lot to get in there. Secondly, look at this. This is Dr. David Minkoff. He is the father of Rebecca Minkoff, who we're going to see on the Real Housewives of New York coming out in October. And this is Whitney Mills. Whitney Mills was a young woman, a Scientologist at the top of Scientology's bridge to total freedom. She was an operating Thetan level 8. That is a huge accomplishment in Scientology. So the article goes on to say, an amended complaint has been filed in the wrongful death involving Whitney Mills, who tragically took her own life on May 3rd, 2022. RadarOnline.com can reveal. The updated version of the lawsuit includes new allegations and adds Dr. David Minkoff, a prominent Scientologist and father of Real Housewives of New York star Rebecca Minkoff, and his Clearwater, Florida clinic LifeWorks Wellness Center as defendants, according to court documents obtained by the underground bunker. As RadarOnline.com previously reported, the lawsuit names 6 Church of Scientology entities, but the latest filings expand on the role Dr. Minkoff and his clinic are accused of playing in Mills's treatment leading up to her death. Dr. Minkoff, a high-ranking Scientologist and co-founder of LifeWorks, has a controversial history that includes his involvement in the 1995 case of Lisa McPherson, a Scientologist who died under suspicious circumstances while in church care. And that's Whitney Mills there. Though he never met McPherson, Minkoff prescribed sedatives over the phone to Scientology staff handling her case, according to court documents. This led to a $100,000 settlement in a wrongful death lawsuit in 1997 and disciplinary action by the Florida Board of Medicine in 2001, and a suspension of his medical license. Despite these sanctions, Minkoff reportedly has continued to treat Scientologists, including Mills, at LifeWorks. So he continued to treat people after, how's that happen? How is he doing that? On May 12, 2022, Whitney attempted to set herself on fire before inflicting herself with a gunshot wound, the lawsuit filed in Florida said. Now, this is a girl who, she reached out for help. She reached out for help to her church, to the people who were supposedly taking care of her. She reached out for help. Mills, who joined Scientology in 2007, rose quickly through the organization's ranks to reach the highest level, OTA, by 2019. Despite the achievement, she began experiencing severe anxiety and other debilitating symptoms in late 2021. The amended complaint provides extensive details about her treatment at LifeWorks and the care she received from Dr. Minkoff, Rebecca Minkoff's dad. She first became a patient at LifeWorks in 2015 to 2017, and since 2017, she had been diagnosed with various ailments, including ovarian cysts, by the clinic staff, according to the documents. Now, there are some text messages that have come out that from Whitney Mills, and this is a text exchange between Whitney Mills and Dr. Minkoff, not long, just I think a month or less than a month prior to when she unalived herself. And it says, this is what Dr. Minkoff is saying. Got it. Drugs could numb you and you are OT. put TR0 in. And TR0 is a drill in Scientology where you're supposed to be able to be there comfortably and confront with your eyes closed. So he's basically saying, get into present time. It's a sensation. It's noise. It has no power over you. That's the truth. Eye of the tiger. You are loved. You have friends and LRH. You duplicate it, dissolve it. So he's saying, understand this, take it in, and then shatter the noise, the anxiety, the things she was saying she was experiencing. That is your power. You can be tone 40, and tone 40 is the Scientology emotional tone scale. It's like the top level where you're like, you got amazing intention. You can be tone 40 with your TR0. That you at cause. I know you can. Much love, DM, which is David Minkoff. She says, okay, thank you. He says, just saying hello. She says, do you know how long it takes to kill off the Lyme and brain inflammation will go away? Usually 6 to 12 weeks. So he was treating her for Lyme disease. In the months before her death, Mills reported severe mental health symptoms, including anxiety, insomnia, hallucinations, and the sensation her skin was burning. Despite the signs she could be going through a mental health crisis, Dr. Minkoff and LifeWorks continue to focus on physical diagnoses, including Lyme disease, babesia, and other conditions the complaint shows. According to the complaint, treatment plans included controversial and unapproved therapies such as ivermectin, herbal remedies, and experimental peptides, rather than traditional mental health interventions like antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. The complaint also reveals that Mills communicated frequently with Dr. Minkoff, expressing her struggles with mental health and the ineffectiveness of her treatments, as Radar Online has previously reported. So what did Dr. Minkoff do? You're wondering, right? He knows. She reached out. She's like, hey, I'm struggling. She was letting her doctor know, like, I'm having hallucinations. I'm having severe anxiety. My skin feels like it's burning. All of these things. How does Dr. Minkoff respond? Dr. Minkoff's responses allegedly often downplayed the severity of Mills' symptoms, attributing them to physical causes and reinforcing Scientology beliefs rather than addressing her need for psychological help. At one point, the complaint shows, Dr. Minkoff suggested that Mills use Scientology techniques to manage her symptoms, advising her to embrace the idea that her mental distress was just a sensation and had no power over you. This is what he told her. As her condition worsened, Mills repeatedly asked for help with her mental health, but her pleas were largely dismissed or met with advice that aligned with Scientology teachings rather than medical best practices, the lawsuit claims. So it's just, with these new claims, with these new things being added to the lawsuit, the truth is coming out more and more and more how destructive Scientology is when it comes to mental health and people truly struggling with their mental health. They don't have access to valid forms of therapy, mental health treatment, life-saving medications. It sounds almost like you can't even believe it, but it happens. These are two high-profile cases with Lisa McPherson and Whitney Mills, but there are others. There are so many that because they didn't get proper mental health care in Scientology, people went on to unalive themselves. They went on to kill other people while under the care of Scientology. Phil Jones says it's pretty clear now that Hubbard's Scientology PR tech doesn't seem to work very well. Yeah, no kidding. That is true. That is so true. Yet they keep doing it because they have to do what L. Ron Hubbard said. When you talk to people, when we talk about the dangers of Scientology and how it's dangerous to people, this is a huge, big part of it. The lack of mental health care, the lack of acknowledgement. Can you imagine having, hallucinations and extreme anxiety and so many thoughts of unaliving yourself, and your doctor tells you to just get your TRs in? it's just noise. You can power your way through it. This is the kind of BS that so many of us in Scientology had to undo in terms of mind control and belief system. And for those of us who needed it, to be able to go out and seek proper mental health care and even medication. You guys know, if you've been following my channel for a while, I lost my partner 3 months ago. And if it weren't for some helpful medications, I would not be able to show up here every day and do this, or even for life. There are valid therapies, true mental health therapy, true medication to help people that people will not get in Scientology. And what's going to happen? We're going to have more situations like Lisa McPherson, like Whitney Mills, and countless others that even went on to commit crimes against other people because they were mentally ill and were not getting the proper treatment and therapy. Honeybee, I know Scientologists don't believe in mental health, but do they believe in taking antibiotics and pain medicine? Like, what do they do if they have cancer? Okay, that's a great question. Scientologists do take and can take antibiotics. They can even take pain medication. When I was a Scientologist, I had a surgery. I gave my mom a kidney. I took the pain medication and I was a full-blown Scientologist. Now, having said that, I took it for 3 days and then switched over to Advil. After having, a kidney removed from my body. And part of that for me was because I didn't like the way the medication was making me feel. I had never taken drugs before growing up. I think I'm one of the only people, me and my sister grew up in Hawaii and somehow never tried cannabis. I was like 40 when I finally tried it. But you see how that all goes together, and the results are outright dangerous. So when it comes to drugs you can't take in Scientology, it's the mind-altering ones. They don't want you taking psychiatric drugs specifically prescribed by a psychiatrist. If so, you can be what Scientology calls an illegal PC, somebody they will not audit because of your extensive history with psychiatry. Let's see. James still says, Natalie, you're going to be 70 before you get your head around it. Around Scientology and leaving? James, I believe it. I'm with you. I was in for 35 years. I've been out for 14. It might take, a little bit of time. And it's often not until certain situations come up and I have to process it and see like, okay, what do I really think I should do versus the programming that still sometimes comes into my head as the solution. But I've been out long enough and have had enough tools to be able to take a step back and separate that out. But I still have to do it. That's how heavy it is. Experts in cults have often said that Scientology is the most difficult cult to recover from. Amber says, I got a mop and a bucket when I was in the Sea Org. No sword for me. Gosh, that was the case for most. That was the case for most of us, Amber. That's what I got for you guys. Please hit that like button and subscribe on your way out. And most importantly, I hope everybody gets out and has an amazing cult-free day.